G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 154, and we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be taking a recap of a brilliant gather round, along with all the fallout from the Zach Butters controversial suspension talk regarding his incident with Nick Foot, the AFL umpire, on Sunday night. We're also going to be taking a look at gather round and if it will be back in South Australia this year, a preview to the new round 6, AFL fantasy chat, and much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options, and Jack Ginnivan says, "Boys, you brought me to the club to do justice."
But this guy has flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man.
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, my brother, co-host of the podcast, is with me, and well, we were at pretty much every single game over the weekend. We got to 7 of the 9. We missed the 2 Barossa games, but it was a very good gather round, another success for SA, and it was the highest attended gather round out of any of them, with 270,000 people attending the games.
Yeah, it was a very good round. It was a lot of games were pretty competitive. The ones we went to till the end really. My team didn't win, but you know,
we're going to get into...
Can't win them all.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about Port Adelaide in a little bit. We'll do a bit of a recap of the round that was. We did start, of course, on Thursday night with the Crows up against Carlton. And, well, I mean, we'll say we started with a bit of a umpiring... wasn't very good umpiring at the start of the gather round either. Like, a lot of howlers were missed in that game, but...
It turned out to be last touch instead of last disposal.
Yeah.
At the end of it. Like, the rule completely changed mid-game, but...
Yeah, well, that's probably something that the AFL, I think, as the round went on, it kind of came back to what it was brought in for, which was last disposal. But yeah, it wasn't really. It is a rule that I personally have thought it's been good. I think it's worked out well. But if they're going to make it last touch, then they're going to have to make it last touch. They can't just change it on a whim.
Yeah, like some of the balls, ball was just like the ball just running down the guy's leg. That's not disposal.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what was happening in the Carlton game.
Yeah. I mean, the Crows did come out winners by 28 points, but obviously the big talk before the game started was that George Hewitt was dropped. How did you feel how Carlton went with that change?
It was a different dynamic. I think it's hard to know because it was, when they during the first quarter and a half, they were actually pretty good through the midfield. They were getting a lot of clearances. They were dominating in the midfield. But as the fast-paced Carlton went, it was actually putting it into the Crows' hands. Like, that's the game style they want to play. And once they started winning the midfield battle, Adelaide, they just took over.
Yeah.
So the second half, it started raining, and it was, kind of George Hewitt weather. But I think that... they just put their pedal. They took their foot off the pedal.
Yeah,
and I think
that's what they've been doing all year. They've been having good first halves, second halves. They've just been nowhere.
Yeah, so it wasn't really. I don't think George Hewitt would have changed that.
Yeah,
really.
Then we went to Friday night. Collingwood up against Fremantle, one of the all-time grinds. It was close, which is the only reason why it was entertaining. Somewhat.
It was an absolute bloody slog.
I think everyone said that. Collingwood. Now, I know they've been linked to Zach Butters, but I honestly think after that game, they've got to chuck absolutely everything at Ben King.
100%. That was, even though that, Freo got 45 points and they got 39, they haven't scored 100 points, Collingwood, since, was it last year?
Yeah, it would have been last year. They haven't got it this year.
I think it was after the Freo game.
Yeah.
I think, but... yeah, you're not winning any games with 39 points on the board with 5 goals.
Yeah. I mean, not many teams would say they'd win games with 7 goals and 45 points either. But looking at the inside 50s on that game as well, Collingwood had 61 inside 50s. They had 14 scoring shots.
Yeah.
So they scored 1 every 4, which isn't ideal, or less than 1 in 4. While Fremantle went in 45 times for 10 scoring shots. So that's not really that good. In fact, that's probably worse on conversion, but... they got the scores that they needed. They kicked straight. Yeah. And in conditions like that was very good. Fremantle, last week you said then you're not a believer just yet. You starting to believe a little, or?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, they won 2 games in a row in Adelaide, away from home.
They look a lot more mature now. Like, they were losing these games last year.
Yeah, and both of them were grinds. They were both very close games, and like you said, last year they were losing these. These are the games they need to win.
Yeah.
And they are. And even though that it was in Adelaide, it was a very dominated Collingwood crowd, and they proved again they didn't deserve to win all that at all. That game, they were dominant. They were so bad in a lot of ways, but so were Collingwood. But they found a way, and they did.
Sometimes these games are what make your finals runs.
Yeah, and it was a matter of a 3-minute burst of 2 goals.
Yeah,
and that was enough. And that was enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I think a lot we said maybe last week, and we kind of pointed to the fact of Murphy Reid, and I think this guy, the fact that he slid to 16 in the draft, I will reiterate again, is an absolute mare from every single recruiting team. The game pretty similar to the first game with the Crows and Carlton, and all the whole weekend, of course, was the wet weather. I think every single game that we went to had rain sometime or another. He just took the ball so cleanly, and it just, in big moments, he was amazing. So he's going to be a huge factor this year for the Dockers. I won't be too surprised, honestly. We always talk about the Sarongs, and Hayden Young's had it in the past with like tagging watch. It could be a moment when Murphy Reid gets one this year. Like the fact that he's so clean with the footy, and every single time he uses it, he hits a target. It may be a moment when he starts getting tagged.
Yeah, I think it will be sooner rather than later for him, and you need to put work into him.
Yeah, you can't let him roam, because the thing is, we always talk about these impact players like the Cozzy Pickett's and that. When they have 20 touches, they win you games of football most of the time. If he has 20 touches in a game of football, Fremantle will win.
Yes.
Because he just uses it so well. Like on the weekend as well, didn't have like the massive game on disposals, but on the scoreboard. But in disposals, he had 22 touches. That's just enough. That's enough for him.
Yeah.
He has 22 touches. He's going to get your team over the line in the end. Like 22 of those touches, and in a game with not many score involvements, didn't have as big an impact as he usually does. But 3 score involvements considering the highest in that game was 6 with Jack Crisp. Considering there was no score. And if you think about it as well, he had 3 score involvements that had 10 scoring shots. So a third of their scores were with Murphy Reid involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's going to be a big player to watch this year. Then we had North Melbourne up against Brisbane, up at the Gabba. At the Barossa. Look, by the way, if you can think my voice is a little bit weird, it was with the last game with Butters and that umpiring. Again, we're going to get to that. So there could be a bit of issues today, but we'll hopefully get through it. Brisbane and North Melbourne. This is at the Barossa. North Melbourne fought it out. Cooper Trenbath. There could be at Arden Street. Do you think it's a bit early for a statue built down there just yet? It's a bit early, but
he's very good at the moment. He's playing very good football.
I don't want to say I called it, but I did kind of call it at the start of the year that this guy's going to have a breakout year. Had an average of 3 goals a game in the last 3 games of the season last year, and he's proving that. Why the fuck did they pick up Jack Darling? What a waste of a contract. But anyway, this guy is going to be huge. He took a huge contested mark against the Lions in the goal square. That was amazing. Brisbane, though, they're getting their season up and about. You just know they just needed a few games, but now they're up and firing.
Yeah, and it was the first game with McGuggage and Andrews back. It was their first game back after injury, and
they've still got a few players out as well.
Yeah, it's kind of looking like it's another prelim at least.
After that, we got back to Adelaide Ovals. Essendon up against Melbourne, and the Bombers, after I think a lot of people could have considered that they weren't going to win a game this year. I think we put out a clip from the podcast regarding them being. I said I think if Tasmanian VFL team could beat them, all of a sudden they pull out a 45-point win against Melbourne, scoring 113 points. They've scored 100 points before Collingwood have. Yeah. And they played an outstanding performance.
Yeah, they played out of their skin, and it's funny that their first win actually isn't in Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, we actually didn't see. We saw a quarter and a half of this game before we went to the Swans game, so we didn't see a whole lot of it. But the third quarter's when it broke open. Essendon just took them to the sword, and Melbourne. it's such a Melbourne sort of thing to do. They beat the Gold Coast last week, the week before, and we've got a little bit of talk about Melbourne a little bit later, but very disappointing.
Yeah,
I would say.
it's. But you can't expect it with these young sides, you know.
Yeah, look, every now and then they're going to have a game where they're just going to drop.
But the good thing was for Melbourne fans is that Cosy Pickett still played very well, and so did Gorn. So the experiences of players around them, but you know they need their young kids to put it up every game, which is not going to happen, sadly. But
Yeah, the thing is,
you still want to see the signs.
Yeah. But then we moved to the first game of Gather Round for the year at Norwood. Was the Swans up against the Gold Coast Suns. Packed Sydney crowd there. I don't think there was many Gold Coast fans. We were down the end of their cheer squad, but I think the majority around the rest of the ground was widely red and white.
Yes.
And the Swans came out winners by 32 points. So they're starting to make a bit of a charge for the Swans. They've had a very good start to the season. Errol Goulden being out. Still a big loss, but Justin McInerney has really stood up in Goulden's absence. The first time you saw Sydney this year, seeing their new game plan of their handball, happy football, their forward handball game. What did you think of it?
Oh, it's very impressive. You know, when they get their stars back and their stars on the field firing, you know, it could be very scary.
And of course, if Charlie Curnow can potentially get the ball in between the big sticks, you know, the reason why he's paid for, could be an all-out season for the Swans.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. He had 3 shots in the first, 3 or 4 shots. They weren't that far out.
No, he should have kicked all of them.
30 out maximum, I think.
I think Joel Amati has some sort of he has a weird sort of track in South Australia. Has a 9-goal game against the Crows, then has a 0-goal 6 game against Adelaide Oval last year, then has a 0-goal 3 performance. Very hot and cold when it comes to Adelaide, Joel Amati. But anyway, maybe it's just Port Adelaide. Maybe he's just afraid of maybe it's just the Crows he likes. Anyone else in South Australia is just not for him. And then Logan McDonald was the only tall forward for the Swans who actually kicked the goal, which was late in the last quarter. I think most Swans fans would agree that Isaac Heaney is Brownlow bound right now.
Oh, I think he is.
We remember a couple of years ago of what was it, 2024, when he had a massive start to the season and then kind of dropped off. Honestly, think he's playing better than that right now.
Yeah, he is. I've watched highlights of the Swans this year, and watching him in that game, no one's better than him at the moment. Really,
he's almost untouchable. And I mean, I know we're going to get. I'm obviously a bit biased, a little bit, maybe just a little bit, but I'm happy to give praise when it's due. With Murphy Reid as well, Isaac Heaney, the way he was clean with the ball every time he got it.
He was the only one who looked good set shot for Sydney on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. But good win from the Swans. Gold Coast come back a bit now. They're Premiership contenders a couple of weeks ago. 2 losses against, Melbourne was a bad loss. Sydney, it was going to be 50-50 this game. So, but Dimmer Hardwick said, they're not at the top echelon of teams at the moment. They're 3-2 right now. They kind of drop off a little bit.
The thing is, this is kind of typical of the Suns, though. This is what we've been noticed the last couple of seasons, even when they're performing well, is that they have a little dip. Everyone starts trusting them. Everyone starts seeing them as being, good finals teams. Then sometimes during the year they have that little lull, and they lose 3 or 4 games. 3 or 4 games there, against teams that they probably should be beating. Maybe not Sydney this year, but they should have easily been able to beat Melbourne.
Yeah, and if they're going to be the team that's going to be fighting for finals, they have to, beat this. They have to beat teams like the Swans. Yeah. If they want to be fighting for, deep finals, they have to be beating them.
Yeah, and especially even Melbourne, that was at the MCG. You have to win there. Yeah. You have to be able to win games there.
Yeah, with the Swans game as well, it's those 8-point games. Those 8-point games are what define top 4 and fighting for a final spot. Yeah. Especially this year with wildcard weekend. Those games are going to be huge,
and especially when back to Freo, they're winning these games at the moment. Winning those close games, winning those games when maybe they shouldn't be winning, but they're winning them. Gold Coast aren't at the moment.
Yeah,
and that's still maybe the maturity levels and the experience of finals and close games, contested games, all that.
One thing I will say though, on the Gold Coast point of view, I was at the training session for the Swans on Friday afternoon. Gold Coast were training first. I did hear from the man himself, Christian Petrarca. He's talking to a fan in front of me. He said he'll be back next week. So that's good news there for not only Gold Coast fans, but more importantly, AFL fantasy enjoyers as well. Swans get the win. They're currently on top of the ladder. Love to see that. After that, we move to Hawthorn up against the Dogs, and Tim English may be the most important player at the Dogs. Who cares about Marcus Bontempelli? Tim English, what a loss. He was like, he got shown on Saturday night.
Yeah, and the two ruckmen for Hawthorn, Meek and
Ned Reeves. Took that kid to school.
Yeah, he took the kid to school, and it was basically like a year 12 kid bashing up
a buddy from preschool. It was pretty bad.
It was brutal.
Yeah,
and
they even took. I think that he hardly saw the field after halftime, which I mean it's unlucky, but yeah, I mean it's just unfortunate. He just wasn't ready for AFL footy.
Yeah, and basically the most anticipated game of Gather Round didn't live up to the hype. Really,
came out with a whimper in the end.
Came out with a whimper, and it was a 40-point thrashing.
Yeah, Hawthorn, they look good. People can have the issue of like they don't have that midfield, but
imagine when the midfield comes in, when Will Day comes back, and
they do. I will be interested if a couple of injuries do arise, though. They will have to be checked with their depth, so it will be interesting. But when you have a full strength squad, you get wins on the board early. That's what matters most. I think teams like Geelong and Brisbane show that if you get wins early on, and you're not fighting for them at the end of the year, you can start to rest players. And that's what Hawthorn are going to try and do now. They're going to be up there this year as well, the Hawks. I think even myself included kind of, went a bit early on them after the losing to the Giants in opening round. But at this point, hopefully opening round's done. It looks like maybe it will be at least for next year. And that was good in the end that Hawthorn did get that win as well. They moved to 4-1 and they're in the top 4. After that, though, we moved to Sunday early game, which was Geelong up against West Coast. Look, we knew Geelong were going to win. Yeah. A lot of people are talking about how West Coast didn't really put up a fight. At the game, I think they put up a reasonable performance. The thing is, maybe the scoreboard flatters them a little bit more because of how many scoring shots Geelong had. They did have 37 compared to 21. But I think West Coast put up I feel like last year, that performance wouldn't have got out of that game with that 100-point loss.
No, and let's be honest, they win 2 games in a row, and you're like, oh, well, that was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Oh, well, where's that again? It's like, they're young they're a young team, It's not going to happen every single week,
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, every 2 weeks, they're going to perform today. It's like, they're still developing. Will Dersmer in his 4th game.
I think he was outstanding. I think he had a very good performance. Yeah. He's really done really well to start these. I mean, he's already, to me, he's almost proven to be the best Dersmer out of the whole family at the moment.
I think 4 games in, and he's better than all of them.
I mean, he's definitely beaten his brother Zane.
Oh, easily. And you got to see other signs as well. Job Shanahan kicks 4 goals.
Yeah.
And against that defense, he kicks 4 goals. That's a pretty good effort.
Yeah.
There's signs. You're looking for signs still for this team. You're not looking for them to, beat up. If you were going into that game thinking West Coast were going to win,
or West Coast were going to get close, I think you're dreaming.
No, the problem that they had was they were competitive until maybe the red time of the second quarter. Then I think Geelong kicked 3 goals in a row, and that was kind of the moment that it was over.
Yeah.
You just knew that they were just going to, it was just going to be a bit back and forth. And
yeah, I mean, and West Coast found goals when, to keep it in touch. Like, the fact they kept it, I mean, I know this sounds a bit sad, but at least they kept it under 50 points. They were able to kick 11 goals, and Geelong, we knew Geelong were going to win this game. So I think overall West Coast did as well as they could have, in my eyes. Giants got back on the winners list in the last game in the Barossa for the year up against the Tigers, and I mean, it's a good win for the Giants, but Richmond, we said this last year that they're not going to get a win. Now, they weren't going to get a win. They found out to get 5. They've got a lot of injuries. They struggle to kick goals with Tom Lynch out. They're playing Jonty Fole up forward. He had 2 touches on the weekend, didn't score. The Tigers they're going to find it tough to win a couple of games this year if they can't get their players on the field.
Yeah, I think this Richmond are a team that need their experienced players in.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that they're all injured. A lot of them are injured or coming off pre-season injuries like Floston. It's like you can't have those interruptions when you're a team really developing, So it could be a tough watch for Richmond fans this year.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. And now they are the only team without a win, which is pretty sad at the moment. But yeah, it's gonna. I mean, look, they'll probably get maybe a win against an Essendon, maybe on Dreamtime. They could be up there with that game. Carlton, if they play them again, very well could have a good win. Maybe be able to snatch a win from someone this year, but it's going to be tough. On the Giants, though, they got back on the winners list. They have the Sydney Derby this week. Got back some key players, maybe only for a week, though. Aaron Cadman's out again with concussion. And Stephen Canelio will be out as well. But they got 131 points. Now, yes, it was against the Tigers, but that's a good score from them.
That's another 100-point team to score before Collingwood have all season. So,
exactly.
You got to take that when you can.
Take the positives. Take the positives.
And, even though that Cadman is concussed and won't play this week against the Swans, coming back straight from injury and kicking what he kicked 4.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a good performance from him. But not playing all season to kick 4 straight away is good, Putting 130 points on the board, These Giants have had those moments in games that, you just don't know. They can do it defensively, but they can also do it attackingly. And there's a team that you don't want to face later in the year.
I think if they get to the bye and they are a wild card chance, they're going to be a tough team to beat because they have a pretty good draw coming up for the rest of the. I think they had one of the easiest draws for Port Adelaide, so if they can get a good draw going into the rest of the season, I think they like you said, you don't want to come up against GWS late in the season. Finally, we get to the final game of Gather Round, Port Adelaide up against St Kilda. Now, before we get to the Zach Butters stuff, let's talk about the game itself. And it was, for some reason, we were sitting in the worst spot. We're sitting in the row B in the forward pocket down the Riverbank stand end, pissing down with rain between the second and third quarters. Wasn't great to see. St Kilda blitzed them early, kicked the first 4 goals of the game. Port Adelaide looked like they wanted to go back into the rooms, get out of the rain. They put up no effort. It looked it looked ominous early. I was like, oh god, we could this could be a 100-point flogging here. They're making St Kilda look like the Brisbane Lions of the last 2 years. But as the game went on, Port Adelaide got back into it. Disregarding the Butters incident, the umpiring was very, very poor. I think it was. There are a lot of free kicks that were just ridiculous. Hence my voice today. I was barracking for Port Adelaide, of course. And it was tough. It was tough to sit there and watch it. On the other hand, I would never say that Port Adelaide deserved to win that game. Despite the umpiring, St Kilda were the better side and they deserved to win. On the other hand as well, though, Port Adelaide did have chances to win it. They had one more scoring shot than St Kilda. They missed some crucial chances early in the last term to get their game up and about, and they just missed them. Zach Butters and Jason Horne-Francis were very good, but no one else came with them. So Port Adelaide, like we always talk about, like teams right now, the best teams in the comp, like it's usually the last 6 or 7 players that define if you are like one of the teams up the top and one of the teams that are going to finish down the bottom, because everyone has those best players. Most teams have really high A graders from bottom teams to top. Like even you look at Essendon, you got Zach Merritt there. Close. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't call Jai Caldwell an A grader, but he's like a high B. I think he'd be around a B grade. Archie Roberts has shown some really good signs from this week as well. But there are players that are there. Even at Richmond, you've got some really good players. Port Adelaide have some absolute stars or stars in the making, but their lower players are, I don't think they get many games for any other team.
No, I don't think that, a lot of them, if they wouldn't be playing, they'd be playing sample easily.
Yeah.
At the moment, yeah. That first 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes for Port Adelaide, they were just dominating through the midfield.
Yeah.
And, if it was not Butters or Horne-Francis, they're not there. Yeah. And they need Georgiades to score goals. Whitlock, they've been saying, is not bulky enough, and he's not. he gets moved. He will get moved around there easily.
And he's young, so I mean, of course that's going to happen.
And you're not going to rely on that. And the small forwards that Port Adelaide have, they have their moments, but
I mean, Joe Richards has had some good games for Port Adelaide, but last night he had some absolute shocking efforts.
Yeah.
Corey Durden had a pretty decent game, but I mean, he was struggling to get a game at Carlton last year. Darcy Byrne-Jones was probably one of Port Adelaide's best players in the first half. Alir was brilliant, and then he was the one who dropped the game in the end when he turned it over at halfback. They have those players there, Port Adelaide, but there is just you'd probably even say like they're from their 11th best player in the squad down. A lot of them would struggle to get a game at any other club.
No, and people were saying how Bergman's, this is the time he's going to rise and all that. This is his moment. I hardly noticed him today. He's coming off of a slight injury pre-season, but
well, if he's not right, he shouldn't be in the team.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice him until late in the game. Really, because
Yeah, he had some. Yeah, he wasn't really excited at all. Like, even though Ken Inkley's gone, it seemed like last year, like the move for him to go into the midfield play as a tagger was a great move. I don't know if that was Ken Inkley's move. It seems a bit weird that he would make like a big change like that when he knew he was on the way out. I kind of believe that was like the move that what Josh Carl kind of wanted, but he hasn't even touched the midfield this year. They need help in there. Why is he not in there? If he's not fit enough to be in there, well, I mean, yes, he can play in defence or whatever, but I hardly noticed him in defence last night. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of issues at Port Adelaide. St Kilda, on the other hand, I honestly don't. Good win, but I really don't see this team pushing for a final spot. Like, they may sneak a wild card, but they just don't look like a team who's going to do much. Like, Nasiah Wanganeen-Middo was brilliant last night. Wilkie had a brilliant season. He's in All-Australian form. And it's a little bit more of a different role. He's accumulating a lot more touches this year, but he's going to be up there. But there's a lot of players for St Kilda where I'm like
Higgins didn't score a goal last night.
No, he didn't score a goal.
It's just
like Filippo, he had a decent performance, but is he even going to be on the field in 3 weeks' time if he pulls another hammy? Wilson had a good performance. He's had some good performances this year, but last night I didn't really notice a lot about him. Like there are,
and still the highest paid ruckman in the game. I would have told you he was useless at times. I think Rowan Marshall would have been able to do a lot. I still don't know why they've brought him in. I still don't understand because I still believe Rowan Marshall's he can be a top 5, top 3 ruckman in the game.
He usually is when he's at his best.
And it makes no sense, and maybe Max Keane coming back, well, they say in a couple of weeks, may bring something, but Cooper Sharman didn't do much last night either.
No.
And the resting ruck, whoever it is, isn't doing a lot forward.
Yeah, Marshall was playing on the wing last night, which kind of surprised me. Like, I don't really mind the tall wingman. Like, we've seen that the last couple of years has really evolved. Like, Ollie Henry being able to drift forward. Jai Sarong with the Swans this year has really shown some great signs playing as that, tall wingman. Arguably being one of the better recruits, probably been one of the better recruits for the Swans so far, even though Curno's done well, but Sarong has been brilliant. But the tall wingman's really coming into vogue now. It's not so much about being that they need to have the high capacity to run, obviously, but being that tall guy who can mark in between the arcs is huge. So I don't know. It just seems weird at St Kilda at the moment. They've had a poor start but they've got 2 wins now. Maybe they can build from here, but from what I've seen, I don't think this team's really going to be doing much at the end of the year for mine. Not at the moment, anyway. But let's move to the big talking point of this game, which was the incident between Zach Butters, of course, and umpire Nick Foote. So Nick Foote, of course, was the one who... I'm sure most of you have seen the clip now of him going up to Zach Butters after a goal going, "I'm placing you on report," and then quickly running away like a school child, about to tell him he's, "I'm going to tell on you," and then running away. So basically Nick Foote runs up to him, says, I'm reporting you, and then quickly runs off. So that was pretty dog in my eyes. And now Zach Butters was also quizzed about this post-game from Xander Maguire on Channel 7.
Early to say, but if you were to be charged, you feel like you'd have a case to fight against that?
Oh, mate, I'd fight for the hills because, I know what I said and I know I didn't say anything bad.
There was an incident in the third quarter where a 50-metre penalty was given against you. Umpire Nick Foot then said at the time that he was reporting you for language used towards him. What did you say to him, and how did that situation play out from your perspective?
Yeah, I'd love to know the language that I said because I went up to him after the game and obviously just wanted to have a chat like any two humans do, and he said he didn't want to speak to me, and all I said is how's had a free kick, and he gave 50 and said I'm on report. So I had a few teammates there right next to me, Ollie Wines, so I'm curious to follow that one up because I'm never going to say anything bad to the umpire. So I just wanted to follow up and ask what he thought I said from his end. So
there were no expletives used or anything directed at him that could have been viewed as derogatory or anything?
No, generally no swear words, no any bad language. So that's why I was curious, and obviously a bit frustrated because it leads to a goal, and I think I'm a pretty honest bloke out there and have a good relationship with most umpires. So I'm sure the club will deal with that.
So that was post-game. Probably the first time an actual interview post-game was actually needed. I think from a losing team, we've seen a lot of them this year be a little bit like, what's the point in that? Now, what's basically the aftermath after this? So throughout the day, basically we're giving you a timeline of what's happened. So in the morning, the Tom Morris reported that there was no umpire mic audio, according to the AFL, which just seemed so far-fetched. It seemed like that is ridiculous. We then saw footage come out that that Butters and Wines were standing next to Nick Foot before the incident was called. Before the decision was called to give 50, and it looked like he was on his mic and he had the mic near his. He's definitely talking to someone, and all of a sudden we have no mic audio. That seems very, very untrue. Someone's covering it up. I don't know who it is. It just seemed very far-fetched for mine. Then we had some news regarding Tom Morris. This was Monday afternoon, saying it remains unclear exactly what the 25-year-old said to umpire Nick Foot. It has become clear that Butters allegedly questioned his integrity. Morris' tweet also revealed that Foot claims Butters did so without using the word cheat. So question his integrity without you calling him a cheat. So questioning the decision, but questioning him as a umpire, I guess, but not calling him an outright cheat. Now, what I believe this could be in reference to is the fact that Nick Foot last year was employed by Sportsbet. Now, this had nothing to do with anything in AFL. Apparently, he was employed on a Sportsbet racing show called Get On. I'm still unsure if he works there this year. I tried to look it up, actually. I've done a little bit of research. Look at me. So amazing. When this was announced last year on the program, the AFL ticked it off, said it was fine, even though a lot of people said it was weird. According to The Age, he did seek Nick Foot seeked approval to be able to do this content, and basically revolves around his role with Get On, which of course is this TV program. This had nothing to do with football. He is not working at or around football with Sportsbet. He is doing content on racing, and this has nothing to do with football. So basically, nothing to do with AFL. So the AFL were happy to tick it off and say that Nick Foot could do this content with Sportsbet with racing. Now, as someone who does content creation, I agree that it shouldn't have anything to do with your main job. I think that they should be separate. However, when you are an AFL umpire, there's no way in hell you should be employed by a betting company. No. There's no way. In what capacity you should be a part of Sportsbet, which is one of the biggest gambling partners of the AFL. There's no way you should be employed in any facet. Now, I guess maybe some people could bring up the fact that a couple of AFL players talk about betting a little bit. I think Tom Papley still has his podcast regarding horse racing. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Eye of Crow or something like that. But that's got to do with horse racing. But I still think that with an umpire, there's a bit of conflict of interest there. It would raise a few eyebrows for mine. I would agree. I would believe anyway. So I think considering Nick Foot is one of the biggest. He's a senior umpire. He's been there for years. I can't remember. I think he's been there for at least 5-10 years as a senior umpire. He should not be having a job of any means with Sportsbet. And I still don't know if he still is a part of Sportsbet at all. I'm not too sure. But the fact that he's done it now, it's always going to be raising eyebrows, and people are going to go, Do you have connections with Sportsbet when a sort of decision like this happens? Because I'm questioning it as to what happened. Because the original free kick was when Jordan Sweet was in the ruck with it was Mitch Owens, and it was called a jumper hold. And from every single angle that we have been provided, like the public, there was no inkling of a jumper hold at all. No. He's called the free kick. Zach Butters and Ollie Wines are standing next to Nick Foot, the umpire. And then as the decision was called, he was umpired dissent. He called 50 certain goal. Changed the momentum of the game. Port Adelaide were coming back. They get a free kick, which was not there. Then Port Adelaide have questioned it. Now, I think umpire dissent is a very shaky rule because there's so many instances of umpires just getting a little bit butthurt, and then they make such a big decision in the game that just changes the momentum of anything, of the whole match. So now we've seen, according to 7AFL, and I think it's their SA show called The Two Team Town, it is revealed that Zach Butters said, "How's that a free kick to Nick Foot?" That has warranted him to not only pay a 50-metre penalty to St Kilda and a certain goal, but to then go and tell Zach Butters that he is suspended. Now, as a Port Adelaide fan, how do you feel about that?
Oh, ropeable. It's fucking bullshit. But it's not surprising since, 2 years ago when Freo played Carlton on Gather Round, something that Jordan Clark said, and it was bullshit. And it cost them 50. It cost them a certain goal, and that's why they lost the game. I'm not saying we would have won the game, but that was a big moment. And when you've looked at every other angle from Jordan Sweet, there's no hold. Where are you pulling this one out from? And when you've got connections to Sportsbet in the past, integrity's going to be raised.
Yeah, of course, people are going to question who do you know that's got bets on St Kilda tonight or something like that. I understand that sort of point. And overall, I think a player should be allowed to ask an umpire, "How is that a free kick?"
Yeah.
He is not. He's not sworn. Even though I think if you swear, it's like, who cares, bro? You live in Australia. Like, we swear all the time.
Yeah. There's asking how is that a free kick is less hurtful than pointing to the screen, as when this was the whole thing of bringing this up to umpire dissent, when people are like, how is that a free kick, pointing at the screen? That was not what happened.
Yeah, from the footage as well, Zach Butters has not pointed to the screen.
No.
So that's not even an issue either. And to take it to heart that badly, that you've then, after the goal, still thinking about it, Nick Foot, in his perspective, going up to Zach Butters and saying, we are putting you on report for it, is so ridiculous. I honestly think, and I really don't like to do this sort of thing because I think it's very over the top and it's overused, like calling for someone's job. But if Nick Foot is that butthurt over such a small issue, he does not have the capability to be an umpire, an AFL umpire. If that is something that he is going to do, literally change results of games based on little things like that, if he cannot handle it, then he shouldn't be an AFL umpire.
No.
He's going to have so much scrutiny, so much pressure on him as an AFL umpire. We know how much AFL umpires come under pressure every single week. If he can't handle that, an AFL player asking him the question, "How is that a free kick?" then he should not be an AFL umpire anymore. This should seriously be questioned of his job, because that is ridiculous. I think he umpired the 2024 grand final. There's no way in hell I'd let him. If I was an AFL boss or leader of the Umpires Association or whatever, I would not allow it.
No, there's a lot of things that's going to happen this week to bring up from every single perspective. And Zach Butters has pretty much said that he's going to go to the hills for this one, and he has every fucking right to.
If that's exactly what Nick Foot said, like, look, this could still be wrong. This is very early. It's not rumors, but this is some sort of speculation around it. If that's what he said, word for word, his job should be gone.
And as you said, which, before we started recording this, is that we were both at this game. We know exactly what happened when this decision was given. We were in the crowd. There was so much worse from the crowd than there was allegedly said on the field.
I'll tell you right now, I said worse. I said worse to the yelling from the fucking B. I think it was seat 39, row B, in the, I think it was aisle 127 at the Adelaide Oval. I'm telling you right now, there was more words coming from me, from you, from people around us than what Zach Butters has allegedly said there.
Yes, and we were about 150 metres away from that. Maybe even more.
Yeah.
But there was so much worse being said.
I'm sure there was another 40,000 Port Adelaide fans and probably some other fans around the ground, because we saw that before the game when the Never Tear Us Apart, there was a lot of other team scarves would also be questioning that decision.
Yes, and even some Crows supporters were questioning it.
Yeah. If Crows supporters are backing Port Adelaide here, you know there's something up. So overall, it's really sad because Gather Round was the biggest ever. And unfortunately, a lot of talk now has moved to this.
Yeah.
It should be talked about. Gather Round is being so successful. And look, that still is going around behind the scenes. But the fact that this is the big talking point of Gather Round now is pretty sad.
Well, yeah, the thing is, like, the attendance record was broken. I didn't know that till about 3 hours after the game, and I saw that post. All everyone's talking about was that moment with Zach Butters and the umpire. So it's sad, but
I guess that's footy. I guess we're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And the AFL will probably come out with an apology saying, "Oh no, we apologise for that decision." It feels like this year there's been more apologies from the umpires than any year. Like umpiring, I think we say this every year as well. Umpiring just got worse. Another issue, oh sorry, my bad. Like maybe that's why they've, instead of like just saying my bad, they've just said, "Oh sorry, we lost the audio." It's like, that's ridiculous. So honestly, if that is what happened with Nick Foote and Zach Butters, I honestly believe that Nick Foote should not be able to umpire another AFL game. Because if he can't handle that, he can't handle pressure of being an AFL umpire, in my eyes. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's get to our fan favourite segment, of course, Rate It or Hate It. Now, Andrew Dillon left Adelaide Airport yesterday. I think it was this morning, actually. Had a couple of reporters talk to him about, the deal with Gather Round, if it will be back in SA this year. It was actually caught off camera, but he did talk to someone. I think it was maybe Mitch Cleary, and he said, "Have you heard the boys over on the Boundary Riders podcast talk about Rate It or Hate It? What a segment." Big talk about him, Andrew Dillon. He's a huge fan. But anyway, first question I got for you on Rate It or Hate It, of course, is Hawthorn are the biggest threat to Brisbane for the premiership this year.
Yeah, I rate it.
Okay.
I think they are. I think, as we've said before, they've got Will Day coming back. They've got Cal Shadir and some young forwards coming through. With maybe old Charles being out this week, they're going to get that experience in a couple games into that. They've got the best. They've got the best back duo in Barras and Battle. They've got the players around them. They've got the experience. They've got the 1-2 punch of Reeves and Meek in the ruck. Yeah,
I've liked that new duo in the ruck actually for the Hawks.
It's working very well. So I think they are a threat to them.
Do you still have Brisbane as the favourite?
Yeah.
At the moment?
I think even like I said before,
they'll be the favourite until they're knocked out.
Yeah, they're the favourite till someone somehow knocks them out.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are you looking at right now? Like, it's very early on. We're at round 5. After round 5. Are you looking at, who are your premiership contenders so far?
Just give me...
all right. I'll give you 4.
Top 4, I'd say. So, Brisbane's number 1. Hawthorn, Sydney, probably Geelong.
Okay.
Top 4.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
And then maybe Freo after that.
Yeah, I'd probably put Fremantle there. Dogs, if they can get English back. It looks like he actually could be back in a couple of weeks, which would be big for them.
I think they said it was back this. There's a chance he could play this week.
I don't know about that.
Chance in hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the Dogs can definitely can rally and can definitely, we've seen how when they hit momentum, they're hard to stop, especially in finals. If the Crows can get players like Curtin back and can actually find a game plan that suits them, that's not so boring, the Crows could definitely be up there. Gold Coast. I don't know. I mean, they have the list, but do they have the maturity to win those games and get themselves in a good enough position to then make it that far? I'm not quite sure. I'd probably at the moment go Brisbane, Sydney, Hawthorn, Geelong, Fremantle. Those are my top 5, I'd say, right now. But obviously, it's very early on. I think last year Brisbane started pretty well last year, I believe, and finished in 3rd. And still, people didn't really give them much of a chance. Everyone said the Crows. Everyone said Collingwood at times, and then obviously Collingwood dropped right down the rungs after like the bye. So we've got a long way to go, but they'd probably be my early contenders at the moment. I've really liked Sydney's handball game. Their run and gun sort of game. And even against Hawthorn, when they lost to them, that's probably a big reason why people are putting Hawthorn in front of them. And I understand that as well. I still look to the fact that there was a 5-day break. They didn't have Isaac Heaney or Errol Goulden in that team. I think with both of them in and coming off a 6-day break, I think the Swans probably could have won that game. So I think that...
And a bit of bias in there as well.
And a bit of bias as well, obviously. I'm not wearing a Swans shirt, damn it. But anyway... yeah, I've got one of my scarves somewhere. I'll have to grab that later. But nonetheless, I still think the Swans are, at the moment, just a little bit ahead of Hawthorn, just based on the midfield. And also, I think Sydney have got a little bit more, I don't know, if there's like a little bit more threshold for like, that can improve a bit more. I think Hawthorn are like right at the top of their game right now. I think Sydney can probably improve a bit more. Same with Brisbane. But I think Hawthorn are like at their absolute best. And can they keep that sort of pressure on the top teams like for the rest of the season? I'm not quite sure, but I still think they're going to be right up there this year, Hawthorn, and very well they could go win the flag. I mean, I picked them at the start. I think when I did my predictions way back in November, I think I had them at number 1. So I still rate them quite highly. Next question: rate it or hate it? Melbourne read too much into their headlines after the win against the Gold Coast Suns a few weeks back.
Yeah, I rate it. I think they did, like maybe a little bit, but you can't go from beating Gold Coast to losing to the team that they will or everyone was saying was the most shittiest team in the last 10 years. You know, that Essendon's not going to win the game. You can't go from beating Gold Coast at home to losing to Essendon. You know,
Without something going awry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be something like...
If you get 3 injuries in the game and you lose, okay. You can't get done by 40 points.
You can't have Cozzy like be one of the better players on the ground and Max Gorn be one of the better players on the ground and still lose by 40 points against Essendon.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the younger guys, they're probably maybe read into a little bit too much. Very poor performance from them. I think they'll bounce back this week. They've got Brisbane. I'm not saying they're going to win that, but I think they'll bounce back. And finally, for Rate It or Hate It, with, of course, Gather Round ending, Gather Round needs to be an exclusive event to be successful.
Yeah, rate it. I think, you know, people coming from all over the country to one state in South Australia has to be, you know, everyone's talking about it, you know, everyone who comes here loves it, you know, it has to be exclusive, and I am surprised that the deal wasn't done before the end of the round, but... You know, there's other things happening and things like that, but it has to be.
So basically the reason why I bring up that question is because it looks like a sticking point at the moment with the deal is that Peter Malinowskis, the Premier of SA, wants to make the deal be exclusive to SA, that the AFL can't all of a sudden chuck it to WA for, like, you know, have two gather rounds in a year. And they can't chuck it to Tassie or something like that. So I think the main points that what I'm trying to gather at the moment is the SA or Peter Malinowskis' dream deal would be for it to be 5 to 10 years, like with the length, and have it be written in the contract that it is exclusive to SA for contract. While Andrew Dillon is more pushing it maybe to be allowed to be at other states. I'm very biased in this episode, apparently. But as someone who's from SA, we're never going to hit 270,000 as a crowd for a whole gather round if it's allowed to be in some other state. Because why would you come over here from WA or Victoria, let's say, or New South Wales or Brisbane? Why would you come here for gather round if, there's going to be another one in 6 weeks in WA?
Yeah.
So
you'd only be out, like, for the eastern suburb, like eastern states, if it was in WA, for example, you're only going to go to one. You're not going to go to both.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you love the game. You're not going to go to both.
The reason why it's been so successful here in SA is because it's not too far of a travel for most people, like by plane. Yes, it's expensive, but by plane, I think it's like 4.5 from Brisbane, 4 hours from WA. It's like you can drive it from Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's like a 7-hour car trip. But it's like it's an hour and a half plane trip. Sydney, it's like 3 hours. I think I don't know how much Tassie is, but it's not too far away, and it's, enclosed. If it is in WA, like I think the WA people would get around it, but no one's traveling to the WA. No. Not many people are. And even New South Wales, I don't think the people of New South Wales and Queensland would necessarily get around it too much, especially if one of those teams do drop off. Like if the Giants get a team, let's say it's in New South Wales. Do you honestly think the Giants are going to be able to fill out a game unless it's Collingwood? And even then, like just a Collingwood team? Obviously, it can't be in Victoria. I'm sorry to the Victorians out there, but you get it every 3 weeks. Like, you're not getting a gather round.
This week, it'll go about 6 of the games in Melbourne.
Exactly. It's like, bro, that's enough for you. You get it every 2 weeks.
It's the Derby this week, so there's only,
and the Sydney Derby as well.
The Sydney Derby, and then you've got Port and you've got, the Crows home game.
Yeah.
So you've got, 6. You got 5 or 6 of them in
yeah, exactly. You'll be fine, okay? Yeah. And then obviously there is talk that maybe Tassie will get it. And until they get the new stadium, you can't go over down in Tassie.
Yeah, so
the only other place you could have it is SA. And the thing is, they have done the people of SA have done everything in their power to show the AFL it should be here.
Yeah.
So what else do they need to do? Now, obviously, I think honestly, Peter Malinauskas has done very well with the negotiating of this, and has basically put everything on the table and said, "Hey, Andrew, we've done this, this, and this for you. You take it somewhere else. Off you go. You do it." He literally said, "I'll find." Here's the clip of him what he had to say on 5AA this morning.
I'm not willing to countenance an agreement that doesn't lock away exclusivity. I don't want the AFL coming and saying, "Oh, okay, we're going to pay you money to take away the exclusive rights." It's got to be exclusive because it's got to be unique, and if it's not unique, then it's not worth having, right? Or travelling for. And this is from my perspective, and you hopefully your listeners appreciate why we've got to hold the line on this, right? Because if we start to water gather round down by everyone else having a turn, then it's not worth the investment. It's not worth the investment. We won't get 270,000 people going to the footy in Adelaide across the weekends.
Basically laying down the law to Andrew Dillon, saying you're not going to get 270,000 people to the footy in a weekend in one state.
No.
Anywhere else.
No, because let's be honest, NG never fills them out and never fills up. Doesn't do it at People First Stadium in Queensland. Doesn't do it in WA when you're not going to fill that out every game because no one's going to go over there. How are you going to get the fans to get there?
Yeah, I mean, you'd get let's say it was in WA, right? They will fill out a Collingwood game. They will fill out a Freo game and a West Coast game. They're not going to fill out a St Kilda game. They're not going to fill out... St Kilda would have to play a big team, and there's just not enough big teams to fill out stadiums.
And you look at Essendon, Melbourne this week in Gather Round.
He got 40,000 on a 12 o'clock in the afternoon in Adelaide when it was... And by the way, the weather conditions, which we've mentioned a few times on this episode, were terrible this weekend. There was rain at every single game, and yet it was the biggest crowd ever.
Yeah.
And from my experience when we were there, you could hear people around us talking to their mates and whatever, talking to their kids, saying like they came over from WA or they came over from different states. The thing is, the first 2 years, I would say, it was very much mostly South Australians. I kind of noticed, even when they were like talking to people on the ground, like the pre-game entertainment, they were talking about people like maybe from Mount Barker or Victor Harbour is like the furthest. This year and a little bit last year, they were talking about a lot of people from Victoria. I heard a couple of people behind us at the West Coast game talking about coming from WA just to experience the whole weekend. We saw at the end of Gather Round with the Port Adelaide game, all these different scarves being held up through Never Tear Us Apart.
You don't get that anywhere else. And like I said, if you can get Melbourne and Essendon 40,000 on a Saturday afternoon at 12 o'clock, if you can get that much crowd, Melbourne probably haven't played in front of that all year.
I was going to say, they literally couldn't get that. They wouldn't have got that at the MCG.
No.
So to get that at Adelaide Oval at a neutral venue, here you go, Andrew. Peter Malinauskas just wrote, cash, and just said, that's how much we're putting in. We're having it here. He said, we're having it here next year. We're having it here for the foreseeable future. Sign here.
Or you do better.
You do better. Go take it to New South Wales, mate. I'm a Sydney Swans supporter. Take it to New South Wales. See how good you go. I know that they would build the game in New South Wales and that. I honestly don't think it would do as good as what maybe some people in the Sydney Swans are saying.
No.
Take it somewhere else. You see how good you go. And it does seem like, from what I've heard, I think Peter Malinowskis also heard that Andrew Dillon did say that in the next couple of weeks they should be having a decision, hopefully. I think the latest is like mid-year they want to have the decision done, no matter if they move it or not. I think it will stay here. I think the AFL would be incredibly stupid to move it.
Oh, yeah, well, like, I don't want to, like, everyone's been saying this for the last couple years. Listen to the fans. And in this moment, you actually have to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get the fans to go to WA. You're not going to get the fans from New South Wales, from Queensland to go to this. You've got it in the perfect spot. You've got it.
And the thing is, even if you did have doubts of the spot of South Australia, the last 4 years is the evidence is all you need.
Yeah, it's getting increased
year on year. And we saw with the worst weather conditions, it was the biggest ever. People are now starting to say, gather around, let's go to South Australia, let's go watch the footy here. People at Norwood were saying this is a really cool experience to watch AFL football at a local venue.
Yeah, you can get as close as you bloody can.
Exactly.
You know, you can get anywhere else.
Exactly. Sign here, Andrew Dillon. That's what Peter Malinowskis is doing. He's holding firm, and I 100% agree with him. And he should be looking for exclusivity too. Not even just for, like, I understand that, like, it may look like a little bit more like a greedy sort of option, but he's supposed to have the best interests of his state. So, say, we want exclusive here. Don't be taking it to New South Wales for a month. Don't be taking, like, have an opening, have your, what are they going to call it now, launch round, whatever the fuck they want to do it. No. Sign here. Give it to us. We'll make it big for you. We'll make you money. Sign there. That's all he needs to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, let's move to the preview to the new round. Of course, round 6 coming up. A couple of big matchups, and of course, we start with Carlton and Collingwood as well. So, going to be a big, two big Victorian clubs. Not really going to be a big game. I think Collingwood kill them. But anyway, let's get into the preview to the new round.
We still have 4 big games to cover, and first of all, we start with the traditional rivals on Thursday night between Carlton and Collingwood. Now, Carlton did look a lot better last week against the Crows, but it was terrible conditions. While on Collingwood's point of view, they made it an absolute slog against the Dockers. But honestly, they really should have won this game. They had 2 big opportunities early in the final term to put this game away with McStay and Lockie Schultz, both of them missing crucial set shots. And the Dockers were able to find a couple of goals late to steal that win. Now, Carlton did make a big selection call last week with George Hewitt out. Now, whether you like that decision or not, Carlton did change up their midfield mix, which I did like. So I will be interested to see if they do go with a little more pacey midfield this week. Also, I wouldn't be too surprised if Jagger Smith is maybe rested. Looked a little bit tired in the game against the Crows, so wouldn't be too surprised if they leave him out. But on Collingwood's point of view, they may be one of the most boringest teams to watch at the moment. They made an absolute slog against Fremantle, a real low-scoring, grungy affair. It was terrible to watch. And it seems like that may be the only mode they're going to be able to use to win games this season. Now, it may inevitably work against Carlton this week, but honestly, it's going to be tough to see them winning many games if they keep it like that for the rest of the season. With the game evolving really quickly into this fast-paced football, if they're going to make these games like an absolute grind, I really can't see them winning too many games. But this week could be a little bit of an outlier. Now, Collingwood have actually won their last 4 games against Carlton, so they have a pretty decent record going up against the Blues. So now let's move to my tip for this one, and I am going to be going with Collingwood. I just don't trust Carlton at the moment. Even though Collingwood don't really thrill me at the moment, and they don't really leave a lot of confidence, I still think they'll be able to find a way to win against the Blues this week. After that, we move to Geelong up against the Dogs. Now I am assuming the result of this game, but I do believe that the Cats will get a pretty decent win against West Coast today. While on the Dogs' point of view, they're coming off a really bad loss. Had some players out, but they got absolutely smashed at their best part of their game, which is their midfield. Now, that was largely to do with the ruck. I think Emmett's probably not ready for the level at the moment. We did see Roy Lobb move into the ruck in the second half against Hawthorn, and they did look a lot better. So I do believe that Roy Lobb will likely take the number 1 ruck spot this week. But of course, with big outs for the Dogs, we've had obviously Tim English from last week. I'm not expecting him to be back for at least a couple more. And then Ed Richards did a late injury to his ankle, and from what we're hearing, I doubt that he'll be ready for at least a month or two. That looked like a pretty bad incident with his ankle. Looking at the Cats' point of view, I honestly think they need a big scalp. Now, they've had a pretty tough start to the season, having a lot of top teams to start the campaign. I think every single team they've played so far, despite the West Coast Eagles today, have been from the top 8 and played finals last season. So, had a tough run, but they did drop games against both the Gold Coast and Hawthorn. Now, they've won all their games down at the Cattery so far, and this game is down at GMHBA Stadium this week. However, may not be as easy as some people think. The Dogs have a very good record down at GMHBA Stadium with 2 wins out of their last 3 games at the venue, and when they lost last year, the Dogs down there, it was an absolute shootout. I think it was 127 to 113. So that game was a little bit of an outlier. So I think it's going to be a big one for the Dogs, especially wanting to come off a response from last week's bad loss. So now let's get to my tip in this one. And even though the Dogs have a good record down at the Cattery, with the injuries that the Dogs have, I can't pick them. I have to go with Geelong here. Tim English is such a big out for them. I didn't really think it was going to be as bad as first thought, but looking at the Hawks game, I honestly think if you get smashed by the Hawthorn midfield, which is, I think, a couple of steps down from Geelong's, I think it's a tough ask for the Dogs to get up here, so I'm going to go with the Cats. Up next, we move back to the Adelaide Oval, and we have the Crows up against St Kilda. Now, Adelaide had a pretty cruiser win against Carlton last week, and the Saints obviously haven't seen their result against Port Adelaide on today, of course, but haven't had a very good start to the season, and playing down at the Adelaide Oval, they don't have the best record there, so it's going to be tough for the Saints. Now, the Crows, yes, they did get the win against Carlton over the weekend, but they have lost some pretty winnable games in the last few weeks when they've been in winning positions, so they need to fix that up. Now, the Crows have won their last 3 games against St Kilda, and all of them have been at the Adelaide Oval. The Crows have a very nice record against the Saints in recent times. Let's move to my tip, and I'm going to have to go the Crows here. I think they're just going to be too strong at Adelaide Oval. Seem to get back to a little bit more of their best against the Blues last week. With a long extended break, I think they'll have a pretty comfortable win here and get their season right up and going. But finally, let's get to the final game we're going to take a deep dive into, which is Melbourne up against Brisbane. Now, Brisbane coming off a tough win against North Melbourne last week, who were quite gallant in their performance at the Barossa, and they looked like they're getting their season up and going now, the Lions. I did expect this, and I think most people did, so it's good to see that for Brisbane. While Melbourne, they recorded a shock loss against Essendon, were absolutely smashed, and we did hear some words from Jake Lever post-game saying their effort simply wasn't as good as Essendon's, and it's why they lost. And from what I saw from Melbourne, it looked like they assumed they were just going to roll up to this game at Adelaide Oval and just knock over Essendon pretty simple, and they just didn't do it. They didn't put up their best effort, and that's what happens in this game. If you don't put up any sort of your best effort against any team, you can get beaten. So, tough loss for Melbourne, probably the worst of Stephen King's young coaching career so far. Now, these games have actually been excitingly close in recent times. So last year, Melbourne pulled off a stunning win against Brisbane at the Gabba, getting up by 11 points, while a year prior to that, these teams played out a thriller at the Gabba as well, with the Lions getting up in a close one. Now, this game is at the MCG, so I think this could be a little bit of a close one here. Maybe a little bit of a danger game for the Lions early in the season. So now I get to my tip for this game, and I have to go with Brisbane. I just see that they're starting to get back into their best form now, so have to go the Lions. I think it'll be a bit of a close one. I'm expecting that Melbourne will come out with a fire in their bellies to try and respond from last week. But Brisbane, just with the quality they have, I think they'll be too good in the end. But guys, with that all being said, let's get to our full tips for round 6. My tips are Collingwood to beat Carlton, Geelong to beat the Dogs, the Swans to beat GWS, Gold Coast to beat Essendon, Hawthorn to beat Port Adelaide, the Crows to beat St Kilda, North Melbourne to beat Richmond, Brisbane to beat Melbourne, and then Fremantle to beat West Coast. And my certainty tip for this week is North Melbourne to beat Richmond. Of course, the Roos losing to Brisbane last week. And my brother's tips are Collingwood to beat Carlton, Geelong to beat the Dogs, Sydney to beat GWS, Gold Coast to beat Essendon, Hawthorn to beat Port Adelaide, the Crows to beat St Kilda, North Melbourne to beat the Tigers, Brisbane to beat Melbourne, and then the Dockers to beat the West Coast Eagles in the Derby. And my brother's certainty tip for this week is the Gold Coast to beat Essendon. Of course, the Suns losing to the Swans last week.
So, of course, guys, now we get to AFL Fantasy for the week, and I had a very successful week. Back on the winners list after a poor round 4 display. My team absolutely stood up and Got 2,106 over the week, which was ranked at 4,028 for the whole round. Moves my overall rank up to 23,845. I'll take that. Now, getting to the positives, and of course we have to mention Archie Roberts, the Robo Man himself. I'm going to call him that, the robot. I don't know why I'm going to call him that, but 164. He was calculated, he was poised, and he was brilliant. Just 42 touches, 15 marks. I was a bit questioning of him early. I got him at the start of the season when he scored, I think it was 59. That's not good enough from me, Archie. I almost got rid of him. But I was like, no, I'm going to hold. I think that Essendon, after that poor performance in round one, he's going to improve. And every single week, he has gone higher and higher and higher. The week before, I think he scored 130, 164. Brilliant performance. And before this week, he was owned by 8% of people. It's now already up to 15. And I think that will go even higher as we go on. Now, keep on going throughout the round. We had Zach Butters with the 118, Tanner Bruin with the 120 season high, Luke Jackson with 131, Harry Sheasel as captain with 105, so 210, I'll take that. Cozzy Pickett in his first game for the team, 124. Josh Rochelle with 124 as well. So, very good scores. Now, there were a few disappointments. Josh Dacos with only 76. Jaden Short, he saved his score to get 79 in the end. Nick Dacos with only 96. Caleb Sarong, really disappointed with his score of 85, considering how good he played against Collingwood last year. Jagger Smith, I'm a bit concerned about. He only got 57 in the end. And then Connor Butterick with the 64. There is a little bit of an injury cloud around Connor Butterick as well, with a lower leg injury, I'm hearing. So I really hope he's not out this week. But that is a bit of a concern there. Now, before we get to your team, I also wanted to quickly mention as well, this is the first installment of positional changes for the year. And for the first time, we have our first triple position player, which is someone that no one's ever going to pick up in Oscar Baker.
Yes.
So, big for the first triple position player, though. So, that's big. A couple of players that did get dual positions I did like. I saw Luke Parker got defensive status. Chad Warner got forward status. Josh Rochelle got midfield status. Devin Robertson also got midfield status. Now, he could be out. I don't know how long he's out for, so that is a bit of a concern. But a couple of players did get those positional changes. One that I did like was Jack Watkins. Thank God he got forward status, so I could rotate him. Because there's a couple of players you want to bring in the next couple of weeks. Blackiston got ruck status. Was there anyone else that got positional changes that were of note? There's probably a couple.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
I think Blamiro's got defensive status, which is good for rookies.
Yeah, I saw that one. There were a couple more. I don't think there was any really of note, to be honest. There's not really many that I can find here. I think Brad Hill was already a forward. Toot Miller, probably the big one. He moved to forward status as well. But he had a really good start to the season. Kind of came off at the last few weeks, though. Let's have a look at your team. So, you did score lower than me this week. So, I think for the first time, it would be at least 6 months, I've jumped in front of you.
Yeah, so, first time since last year.
Yes.
Last week, I did pretty bad, to be honest. I got 2,023, so I'm glad I got 2,000 after all the buys, but it was ranked at 19,000 just over. Some players for me that were good. I still backed up with a 102, but he was my vice captain, so I was happy with it. Jacob Farrer, first game in for the season with 102.
Brody Grundy as well.
Yeah, and Brody Grundy, first game into the season. I was like, do I do what everyone else is doing and take a rookie or something, and take McAndrew scores and just take that all the money? But I was like, nah, just go for the experience and Grundy. So I'm happy with that. The disappointments, there was
Could take a while, guys. We'll just get
so many disappointments really this week. Dan Houston 59. Like, what are you doing?
That's why Paul got rid of you.
Yeah, captain was on Sinclair. I thought he would play better, but I think the rain didn't help his score. He only got 90, so 180 as a captain. Sam Grill, go play fucking VFL footy, mate, with 58.
simply not good enough, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not scoring AFL fantasy for us, then what the fuck are you in the team for?
Yeah. Oh, the other positive was actually Luke Jackson with solo ruck, which I don't think he'll get this week. I think Mason Cox comes in. Flanders, you might as well get your role with Ned Flanders and the Simpsons with 85, for fuck's sake. You know, Shea Bolton, you know. I don't care what you do if you have those final quarter fucking moments. You're getting 64. What the fuck are you doing? Sam Lawler, well, you know, number one pick. You know, fucking
69.
You know, take Murphy Reed over you at the moment.
Richmond picks poorly. What a huge.
Yeah,
and
I will say this one: the one on the bench when Leo Lombard with 39. It's like, dude, what the hell are you really doing?
He hasn't done really. He hasn't like. He'll definitely come on, I think, but he hasn't done that well.
Yeah, well, I need it now, to be honest.
Anyway, let's move to our trades. So my trades for this week are Devon Robertson out and Jacob Farrow, I'm pretty sure, in from the Bombers, and Caleb Windsor I finally got out, and Lockie Ash I've brought in. Now, that means I've still got 164,000 left in my salary, so I've still got a bit to use maybe next week, but this is probably my first big move of the year. So I had to get rid of Devon Robertson. I didn't want to, but with that injury, I doubt I feel like it's going to be a serious one. If by some chance it's only a couple of weaker, I may change it.
Who would you get rid of?
Probably Leo Lombard.
Yeah.
It'll either be him or Watkins at the moment. Maybe Blackiston, but I think it's probably one of them too. But Farrow, I just simply had to bring him in. The fact is, I'm actually paying more for him than Robertson. He's gone up that quickly. But the thing is, he's just going to keep on going up. Yeah. So I have to get him in now. He's averaging 90. And I think that was because of his first week score, if I'm being honest. I think that's why he's actually a little bit... if I look... Yeah, he scored 66 in his first game, which is like not bad. But then he went 101 against the Dogs and then 102 against the D's. Yeah. So he's definitely improved. So I had to bring him in. And then Lockie Ash. It was an interesting one. I had a choice between him or Sinclair. I was too scared to go with Wilkie. And Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller was another option, but again, I think Tag could be there. Wilkie's actually had a really good season.
Yeah, I know. I've actually considered it, but it was like, no, that's just. I think, I'm too scared to go that way either.
Yeah, so I went with Lockie Ash. Now it looks like the Giants have a pretty decent run of like fantasy teams the next couple of weeks, and the Swans do scare me a little bit next week because Jordan could go to him. But I believe that they'll go to Callahan after last year's Derby when he played so well against Sydney. I think Jordan will go to Callahan. So I think Lockie Ash will get a pretty clean run of it. So I'm pretty confident with that. But also I could be a little bit unsure about that because from my understanding, I don't think halfbacks have scored very well against the Swans. And Sinclair could be changed. But at this moment, I'm happy with Lockie Ash. But we'll have to wait and see. Caleb Windsor. I went with him at the start of the season. He gave me a little glimmer of hope a couple of weeks ago with a 94, but after that, he's gone back down.
And the glimmer of hope in the first 6 minutes of the game of gather round, he was like on already about 15.
Yeah, he was on fire, and then all of a sudden he just like, nah, boys, I'm done.
Yeah,
and that was it. And so with his team, he just went down. So I'm happy with those trades. So at the moment, looking at my team for the upcoming week, I've got my captaincy currently on Caleb Sarong in the Derby. How many medals has he got? I think he's already got 3 in his career.
Yeah.
So
you might as well. You might as well.
I'm pretty confident on that one. And my vice captaincy at the moment, I'm sitting with Nick Dacos as vice captain against Carlton. Has a very good record against the Blues, so I'm pretty confident on that one. Another vice captaincy call, maybe Sheasel against Richmond or Jackson. I can't go Jackson. So that's probably where I'm sitting at the moment. So it's kind of where I'm leaning to right now. But overall, pretty happy with how my team's building now. How are you looking at the trades?
So this week I got rid of Jack Carroll and I got in Angus Anderson after his 90 odd on the weekend. And I got rid of Connor Butterick and I bought in Archie Roberts. I thought, with the last 2 weeks of him scoring over 130, I think you had to. He's less than $1 million, which is very, very handy. But Connor Broderick, he's not getting enough score now. He's not. You can get rid of him. I don't think there's enough cash generation now, which is why I've done that trade. I've decided I'm going to keep Robinson one more week if I have to, because it depends on what sort of injury it is. it didn't look good. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
I
It doesn't
think
look good at all.
It's definitely a something CL. So it's either an ACL, MCL, or PCL.
Yeah.
It did not look good. But
Yeah.
Look, if by some chance it's only a couple of weaker that he just severely cork-eated or something miracle, I think I'll keep it to that trade. I may keep Robertson for one more week, but I believe that with players like Lombard, Blackiston, who else have I got on the bench here that I could have got rid of? Watkins. I think they've got one more week of cash.
Yeah.
So I think I'd probably do that while Robertson, if he's out for a long period, I feel like there's no point keeping him.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting rid of him, Leo Lombard, Braden Cook, and to be honest, Sam Grill at the moment. I think with hopefully Lockie Jacks comes in back in next week for the Dogs, and
Well, I mean, he was their big loss over the weekend.
yeah, well, we were saying it's like who cares about English? It's more about Jacks and the team, I think.
Well, to be fair, Bailey Dowd butchered the footy at times. So
Yeah.
maybe it is Lockie Jackson.
But yeah, and I think also Josh Lindsay for the Eagles. I've still got him. I think he's still going to make a bit more money, but that will be interesting. So, but with getting Archie Roberts, I've actually used most of my salary, so which isn't great, but I still have the benefit of having Mick Andrew on my bench. So at some point when that trigger goes and he has enough money, I can bank all that money for him.
Yeah.
And then I will be able to spread that around to other players. But also, so this coming weekend, I've decided I'm going to go with Brody Grundy as my vice captain. And at this moment, Harry Sheasel was my captain.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
And also, which was also lucky of me, which I hope with the information you told us earlier, is that Christian Petrarca, I've actually kept him through all this injury so far. And if he comes back, it will make my team very good.
Yeah, I think next week what I'm going to hopefully do is get rid of either Sam Grill. I think that's the player I'm going to go because he's my highest priced reserve at the moment. Because I've actually chucked Jai Sarong in the team. The last few weeks, Sarong's definitely taken over as that kind of D5, D6.
Yeah.
So Sam Grill, I think, probably goes. And then if I could bank some cash on that, I could probably get rid of a Connor Butterick type and then get to Petrarca because his break-even's going to be quite high because of his injury.
Yeah, it's actually 100. So it's not as high as I thought it was going to be. But
I can't see him. I mean, he could probably get to over 1 million, but I don't think he goes much higher than that.
no.
So with that, I think I should have enough with Butterick to Petrarca. I mean, by then, I've really only got one more forward I have to get rid of for the moment.
Yeah.
With Big Brad and Cook, and that's fine. In the midfield, I've got a couple of players that I probably have to lose eventually. Like Jagger Smith's probably the worst. And then in my defence, there's probably a couple, like Lockie Jackson, Sarong. But even then, those two have done okay. I'm happy to get a couple of 70s,
Yeah,
60s the next few
yeah,
weeks.
that's what you're kind of happy until you get to the buys, and then that's when you really start getting rid of all of them.
Yeah. So now let's move to the leagues for the channel. I got a win against the top team. So you all can thank me in the head-to-head league that I knocked off number one. With my 2,106, I knocked off Nordic Son of Loki Finner. That was his name, apparently. We couldn't say it the first couple of weeks, but now that I've read it, I'm pretty disappointed in that, bro. No wonder you lost to me. So he has dropped from first down to fourth. I was very happy with that. With my score of the weekend, in the overall ladder, I've jumped up into fourth spot for the whole league. So that's how good I've been doing. In the season league, I am in eighth spot. So I've got 2 wins, 2 losses. So currently who leads the head-to-head league is Oliver Stinks, and his name is Oliver. So no one's actually got all wins so far. So everyone's had a loss in our head-to-head league at the moment. Butters My Buns is in second. Good on you. Sean 93 is in third, and I play him this week. And then Nordic Sun is in fourth. I'm sitting in 8th. You are sitting down in 14th.
Yeah, I haven't started well. I think, I've actually got a bit bad captaincy record so far this year.
To be fair, though, you won 9th in overall league. So the thing is, you've had some tough matchups. You've had a very tough fixture.
I've said this in other leagues that I'm playing in this year that, I may start slow, but when I've got enough cash generation that I'm going to be able to find my way through. And
you're definitely going to win the bottom 8 finals.
I always say this: you don't want to play me if I make the 8.
Oh, the bottom 8 finals are going to be generational.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I always love winning those ones.
Yeah, that's definitely the losers bracket. But in our open league as well, we look at that one. Currently on top is the Fog is Rising. Hit top spot for the first time this year. Has an average of 1,919 so far. Very good score. Total score of 9,596. Now, comparing that to the top of AFL Fantasy, the top at the moment is Hammers Boys, so around the whole country. He's got 9,868. So what's that? Only 300 off. So not too bad. So we've got a pretty good leader at the top of our league at the moment. Scrolling down the leaderboard, I am currently in 39th spot in the league.
I wouldn't be even on
You
that.
are in 48th. You're just.
Oh, am I still on the? Am I still on the board?
We've got to remember we have 81 in the league, but we can only see the top 50 for some reason. They don't show us the rest. So that apparently, anyone who's outside the top 50, you do not give a fuck about. Fuck you.
Which pretty much what the saying is, like, if you're not in the top 50, you're definitely not going to get a chance.
Yeah. So at the moment, that's the guy who's leading. The fog is rising. Very good start from him. Very good. I'm very happy with my team at the moment. I'm actually, even though this is probably not the best start to the year, honestly, I can't remember a time I've actually been more confident in my team.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thing because my strategy's been a bit different this year because my strategy is more just getting cash at the moment. That's still my strategy at the moment. So I'm not concerned that I'm 16th in our league head to head. I'm still confident I can find a way. I think I can rise the ladder.
I think a lot of people at the top as well definitely used the McAndrew second ruck.
Yeah, that's
that. They cashed in everywhere else. I think now that I've got more of a safety with the cash, the trades will start coming now, and then I'll be able to get my team very good. I
think I like my way of doing it. Is that I've actually got to see all these new players playing in different positions. These new and even just the experienced players in their ways. Just so then I can have the McAndrew trade sometime, and then I can just pick and choose who I can upgrade to, and just those different things. So I'm pretty happy with my team at the moment, even though that I'm just glad I'm scoring 2,000. That's what I think you need to, at least.
At the moment, that's probably the best you need to do. But guys, that's pretty much all we have for this episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please do not make fun of my voice crack 2 minutes ago regarding that. Yelling at the umpires, you guys should all understand that was terrible umpiring in that game. But very good gather round. Hopefully it's back in SA from, for the foreseeable future. I think that they do it best. But yeah, make sure to let us know down below who you guys are tipping this week, how you guys went AFL Fantasy, how you think the AFL season is going. Down below, make sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube, and make sure to leave us 5 stars and follow over on Spotify so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.